de los Andes. The incident and the subsequent protests that have flourished throughout the country since then have thrown a light on the general discontent by a very large segment of the Venezuelan population over not just the lack of safety and impunity by the government and security forces who are, in a so-called democracy, supposed to protect its people, but also over a worsening economy and rampant shortages of basic goods, including food and medicine. The protests and the systematic attempt by the government to crack down this outpouring of discontent by our people has clearly illuminated the fact that Venezuela today is not being represented by a government that is supposed to uphold those very rights afforded by their constitution. Those are the very same rights that are explicit in most nations, such as the United States of America, that live in a constitutional democracy, which uphold those very basic human rights as defined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that every individual has a right to his opinion and expression. This right includes the right not to be punished for his opinions, the right to investigate and receive information and other opinions and to share them without limitation of borders and through any means of communication. Nelson Mandela once said, "To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity." We, the Venezuelan people, living still both in Venezuela and abroad, feel that these current violations of our very basic human rights are an affront to our humanity, and we cannot thus remain silent. But these violations do not only affect Venezuelans, they affect every human being on this planet because we do not live in isolation. We as humans must abhor violations occurring anywhere in this wonderful world of ours. The motto, "El que se cansa pierde," which means he who gets tired loses, applies to our cause, SOS Venezuela Concerts cause. We have created this forum to speak up in support of our brothers and sisters in Venezuela and have committed ourselves to raising awareness through our music of human rights violations taking place in our country and elsewhere in the world. We cannot afford to get tired, to remain silent in light of the continued violations taking place. We do not use guns. We do not use violence. We use our music to bring you and us together. These are our notes for justice and peace. When words can no longer express our pain, our frustrations, that's when art begins. We use our art to express ourselves, and we have dedicated our lives to music to express that which speaks of beauty and which touches our souls, your souls. I'd like to extend our gratitude to Shenandoah University and its administration for allowing us to use this beautiful place of study and reflection to host this event. In particular, I'd like to thank Simón Goyo, my friend, my colleague, my colleague, and a member of the Dalí Quartet we had the pleasure of listening earlier this evening, and who have actually joined the orchestra for this final moment. Simón has been an ardent and significant force behind the SOS Venezuela Concerts initiative. Thanks also go to his beautiful wife, Susana Barragoyo, for her tireless efforts and support with general logistics and her talents in spreading the word through social media. To our guest, Fernando Rendon, who spoke earlier and eloquently on the social and political crisis in Venezuela. And last but not least, to our wonderful local volunteers who helped us with a delicious pabellón criollo at dinner, in particularly my wife, Anchi, who took on, bravely so, the challenge of organizing this dinner for an unknown number of guests. I'd like to extend my gratitude to artist-painter Miguel Diaz, who has graciously donated his painting composition on pillar for a silent auction. Proceeds from this auction will go towards covering expenses associated with the event. You may have already seen the painting in the foyer. It's in display. Please be sure to visit Miguel in the lobby or in the foyer right after the concert. Donations of Tylenol are still being accepted after the concert, and you can deposit them in the boxes provided for outside the hall. These donations help the movement. One Tylenol for Venezuela, or un Tylenol para Venezuela, which provide much needed relief to thousands of Venezuelans who do not have access to this important pain relief medicine. All donations will be sent directly to Venezuela. The only work on tonight's program, the slow movement from Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, was written during a time of horrid repression and unspeakable crimes against humanity. In the so-called Soviet Union during the Stalin era, and I believe this music epitomizes that which can only be poignantly expressed through music and not words. But in the rest of the program, you will hear but a small example of Venezuelan culture, its music and of its heritage. A culture that is being threatened by indifference, injustice, and hatred. We come here together tonight to raise our voice and to express our common bond as humans, for justice and for